My sister-in-law was getting married. And when she came over for dinner, I grabbed some groceries and bought a lottery ticket on a whim. Who would have thought? When the numbers came out, I actually won 200 million. At first, I planned to use the money to take my family to the top, live the dream life together. But right then, my husband suddenly said he wanted a divorce. I held up my thumb, barely able to contain my excitement. Wow, 2 pieces of good news in one day. Chapter 1. My sister-in-law Selena, after 30 failed blind dates, finally found her Prince Charming. It was such a happy event that the whole family was thrilled. My mother-in-law specially invited Selena and her boyfriend Eric over for dinner at our place. Emma, here's 200 yuan. Go buy some groceries that you young people like to eat. My mother-in-law handed me the money. On the way to the market, I also casually bought a lottery ticket. When I got home, I put the groceries in the kitchen and realized that Monica, my mother-in-law, and Oliver, my husband, weren't in the living room. I just busied myself putting things away in the kitchen. Then I heard the sound of the door. They were back. Oliver, don't you dare let your wife find out about this 500,000 yuan. She'd totally lose it, Monica said while changing her shoes. Don't worry, Mom. I've been keeping the money in my private account. Emma doesn't even know this card exists, Oliver replied as he carelessly kicked his shoes everywhere. With this 500,000, Selena will be set. Once she marries into her new family, she'll have confidence and won't be bullied. That'll put me at ease, my mother-in-law said proudly while sipping water. The two of them chatted on in the living room, while I stood frozen in the kitchen, still holding a spatula. 500,000? Where did that come from? Giving it to Selena? As her dowry? As far as I know, Monica only earns 4,000 yuan a month at the factory. She also has her usual expenses, and Oliver had told me that when we got married, buying the house and paying the bride price had drained the family dry. So I was understanding the 200,000 yuan bride price they gave me? It was symbolic. I returned it all to Oliver to manage. So how did they manage to save 500,000 in the 3 years since I married in? My thoughts sparked like wildfire. I used to think I was part of the Wong family. Now it was clear, it was just the 3 of them who were truly family. I was nothing more than a foolish housekeeper. I used to think Monica giving me a couple hundred yuan here and there was her being generous. Turns out, compared to her own daughter, I was nothing, a beggar. Basically, the dish in the pot had already started to dry and burn, and I didn't even notice. Hey honey, when did you get back? Oliver opened the kitchen door and jumped when he saw me, snapping out of my daze. I glanced at him. I got back about 10 minutes ago. Oliver quickly came to my side and took the spatula from my hand. What are you daydreaming about? The food's burning. I hurriedly poured some water into the pot. I was just thinking if the shopkeeper overcharged me on the groceries. I made up a random excuse, trying to brush it off. He gave me a probing look. You didn't hear anything just now, did you? That look, it was like he was trying to see right through me. I kept up my clueless act and looked at him blankly. What? Hear what? When exactly did you get back? You didn't make a sound when you came in. His expression finally relaxed, a smile tugging at his lips. I went out to buy your favorite, durian. Just got back. As he said it, he planted a kiss on my cheek. That's when I noticed he was holding a huge durian. Suddenly, I felt disgusted by the durian and by his kiss. Because that wasn't my favorite fruit. It was Selena's. This whole family. I've had enough. Chapter 2. At noon, my sister-in-law Selena brought her boyfriend Eric over. The two of them came empty-handed and immediately began eating and drinking as soon as they entered. At the dinner table, I deliberately brought up the topic of bride price. Eric, now that you've got our precious gem, how much are you planning to offer as the bride price? I asked half jokingly, half seriously. Eric froze for a moment and said, Sister-in-law, we discussed this before, it's 188,000 yuan. I let out a dry laugh. Wow, auspicious number. Then I turned to my mother-in-law and said, Hey, Mom, that's not a small amount. How much dowry are you planning to give Selena? Do you have enough money? If not, I can chip in a little. That bride price card of mine is still with Oliver. My mother-in-law gave a forced smile. Oh no. How could I take your money? I've already prepared the dowry for her. Then she turned to Eric and said proudly, I've been saving for years for my retirement, but I'm giving it all to Selena as her dowry. It's not much. I hope you don't mind. Son-in-law? Eric waved it off and said he didn't mind. The whole group was acting like I was some fool. Do they really think I can't see through it? But unfortunately, I didn't have any concrete evidence, so I didn't dare call them out at the dinner table. After the meal, they all sat chatting in the living room, discussing wedding dates, all joyful and harmonious. Yet, on the four-person sofa, there was no space for me. I looked at the messy table and the kitchen that resembled a war zone. Taking off my apron, I excused myself and went back to my room, claiming I wasn't feeling well. My mother-in-law looked a bit displeased, but with guests around, she didn't say anything. I closed the door, curled up on the bed, and tears began to fall silently. A week later, Selena and Eric got engaged. They didn't invite many people to the engagement party, of course. I wasn't one of them. Ridiculous. My mother-in-law told them I was working and had no time to come, so she made my husband bring me food instead. He even made sure I finished eating at the office before leaving. But as soon as he left, I took leave from work and followed him to the banquet hall. There weren't many people at the venue, but everyone of importance from their hometown was there. There was a photo zone set up for Selena and Eric, with the full bride price from Eric's family on display, along with all of Selena's dowry, a total of 500,000 yuan, laid out in full view, not a single cent missing. When my mother-in-law saw me arrive, her face turned pale green. I handed a bouquet of flowers to Selena and smiled at her. My dear sister-in-law is getting engaged today. How could I, her sister-in-law, not come? Selena's face twisted in embarrassment as she forced a smile. My husband rushed over and said, Didn't you already eat? Why did you come here? I raised my voice. Oh, so once I've eaten, I don't qualify to attend the engagement party? Or are you afraid I'll see the 500,000 yuan dowry you gave Selena? As soon as I said that, my mother-in-law's face darkened. Since I had exposed everything, they dropped the act. Selena walked up to me with a proud face. So what? My family has the means to give me a big dowry. What about yours? Your parents have no money, and you dare throw attitude here? I was so furious I nearly choked. Selena, you know exactly where that 500,000 came from. My mother-in-law stood up in a panic. Emma, mind your tone. What do you mean where it came from? I saved every cent of that money. Why are you making it sound so shameful? My husband frowned at me. Emma, don't cause a scene here. Eric's family sat by watching like it was a drama show. Of course they wanted me to be humiliated. After all, marrying Selena came with a 500,000 yuan bonus. Chapter 3. When I refused to let it go. My husband slapped me across the face. It was the first time he had ever laid a hand on me. 2 years of dating, 3 years of marriage, and this was the first slap. That slap woke me up completely. What was the point of continuing like this? I slapped him back and walked out of the banquet hall. When I got home, I pulled out my suitcase and started packing to go back to my parents' house. Suddenly, I found a lottery ticket in the pocket of a coat, a ticket I had bought a week ago. The draw was today. I pulled out my phone and checked the numbers one by one. 200 million. I had won 200 million yuan. In that moment, all the sorrow and grief evaporated. My hands trembled as I pulled out my phone, ready to call my husband and share this incredible news. But as I hovered over the dial button, I stopped. He slapped me. Unless he apologized, I would never forgive him. He didn't deserve to share this fortune. I stopped packing. Instead, I sat on the sofa, waiting for my husband to come home. I waited until it was nearly dark. My mother-in-law and husband finally returned home, both reeking of alcohol. My husband tripped over the suitcase I had left by the door. As he got up, his head cleared a little. He pointed at me and said, Emma, what the hell do you think you're doing? What's this? Planning to run away? My mother-in-law rolled her eyes behind him and let out a drunk burp. A hen that doesn't lay eggs should have left long ago. Hogging the pit and not shitting. If you want to leave, then leave already. Shocked, I stood up from the sofa and stared at my husband. So that's what you think too? You want me out of this house too? He impatiently shoved me aside and collapsed on the sofa. Yeah, go. Just go already. You're so annoying. I'm done with you. 3 years of marriage. And still no baby. My buddies think I'm the problem. If I'd known your uterus was such garbage and couldn't deliver, I wouldn't have wasted money marrying you. What a waste! Tears welled up in my eyes. I never imagined he'd say something so shameless. He was the one who said we couldn't afford a child when we got married. Now he was blaming me? I was devastated. I didn't bother finishing the packing, just took a suitcase and went back to my parents' house. The next morning, he called me. I thought maybe he had calmed down and was going to apologize. But the first thing he said was, "Emma, where the hell are you? Haven't cooked yet? The house is a mess. Get back here and clean up." Typical, he'd never change. I took a deep breath and said, "Oliver, let's get a divorce." There was silence on the other end. Then suddenly a burst of laughter. Ha ha ha. Fine. Divorce? Let's do it. Come right now and we'll get divorced. I didn't expect him to agree so quickly. From the end of that call to the moment we had the divorce certificate in hand, it was less than an hour. Standing outside the Civil Affairs Bureau, Oliver looked completely refreshed and carefree. He looked at me mockingly and said, "Emma, 3 years of marriage and not a single egg from you. Let's see who wants you now." Looking at the divorce certificate in my hand, I felt thankful I hadn't told him about the 200 million yuan lottery win. For me, winning the lottery and getting divorced, what a double blessing. He just lost a woman worth millions, and he was still laughing like a fool. I ignored him, disguised myself, and went to the lottery center to claim my 200 million yuan prize. 1 month later, I was happily counting my money at home, when suddenly, a court summons arrived. Oliver was suing me. Could it be he found out about the lottery? Technically, a prize won before divorce could be considered marital property. Was he trying to take half of it? Chapter 4. With a heavy heart, I hired the best legal team I could find and headed to court. The judge, dignified and upright, looked solemnly at Oliver and asked, "Plaintiff, what is your claim?" Oliver looked smugly at me and said, "Your Honor, I request the defendant." My heart was pounding in my chest. "I request the defendant to return the betrothal gift from our marriage, 200,000 yuan in total." Hearing that he was only asking for the betrothal gift, I sighed in relief. A mere 200,000 yuan? Not even worth my time. My legal team costs more than that. Just as I was about to speak and agree, Oliver added, "My ex-wife Emma was lazy and idle after we got married. She spent money recklessly. Every month I gave her an allowance, and she spent it all by the end of the month. We were married for 3 years, and she never had a child. She wasted 3 years of my life, so the 200,000 yuan betrothal gift must be returned in full." Immediately, I felt the courtroom's judgmental stares on me. This slander and defamation, who could stand it? Did they think Emma was that easy to bully? I patiently let Oliver finish, then looked to the judge and said, "Your Honor, I have something to say." The judge gestured for me to speak. I locked eyes with Oliver. "You say I was lazy? Then tell me, when your mom got into a car accident last year, who took care of her? Don't tell me it was your sister. You say I spent too much money. How much was your salary? And how much did you give me?" 3,000 yuan a month, and you gave me 1,500 of it? Oliver looked nervous under my questions. The jury's expressions began to shift. He tried to argue, but I cut him off. "Oliver, how dare you say I didn't have children in 3 years? Have you forgotten we got married because I was pregnant? You made me abort it. It was a fully formed baby boy." The courtroom erupted. Everyone started murmuring except for Oliver, who hung his head in silence. Suddenly, my ex-mother-in-law stood up from the gallery and shrieked, "Emma, that's nonsense. We had no money when you got pregnant. You were the one who wanted the abortion. How can you blame Oliver?" Her voice was sharp and cutting. The judge banged his gavel to restore order. He gestured for me to continue. I took a deep breath and said, "Your Honor, regarding the betrothal gift, I have something to clarify as well. Like my ex-mother-in-law just said, when we got married, they had no money, so I returned the full 200,000 yuan after marriage. and it was used entirely for household expenses over the past 3 years. These transactions can be verified through our financial records. The judge frowned. Miss, what you say makes sense, but you lack sufficient evidence. These financial records weren't presented, and tracing 3 years of spending will be difficult. Plus, we need Oliver's family to cooperate. I smiled. Your Honor, if Oliver's family refuses to cooperate, can I sue them for fraud or extortion? The judge replied. Technically, yes, but not until this case is closed. I turned to Oliver. Oliver, I suggest you cooperate with my investigation, or I'll charge you with fraud. Who knows how many years you'll spend in prison? Oliver hesitated, looked at his mother, then turned back to me and smirked. Go ahead, check whatever you want. I'm not afraid. Of course he wasn't afraid. His mother managed all his money. But that betrothal gift card? That wasn't under her name. And besides, I had hired the strongest legal team. These people weren't amateurs. I wasn't fighting for the 200,000 yuan. I was fighting because Oliver's whole family knew the truth and still chose to kick me when I was down. When we divorced, I walked away with nothing just to get out quickly. But now, they would pay for their greed. Chapter 5. After a temporary adjournment, my legal team and I spent a week gathering the most detailed financial records. Thankfully, in the age of digital payments, pulling up the electronic transaction history was relatively easy. In 3 years of marriage, the total household spending amounted to 118,000 yuan. I had also been working. Over these 3 years, I had personally contributed 70,000 yuan from my own salary for household expenses. Oliver's account, on the other hand, had been completely emptied. Had he used all the money as dowry for his sister? Oliver couldn't be that stupid, right? Thankfully, my legal team was sharp. They noticed some unusual transaction amounts in Oliver's history, things like 520 and 1314, which in Chinese homophones mean I love you and forever. But he had never sent me those kinds of amounts. There could only be one explanation: Oliver was cheating on me. When I learned that, I felt a chill all over. I had never imagined Oliver would cheat. Before the divorce, he still treated me decently. We didn't live a luxurious life, but he would surprise me with little thoughtful gestures from time to time. If they hadn't crossed the line this time, I wouldn't have considered divorce at all. But now that he had cheated, it was good news for me. First, the divorce settlement could be renegotiated. Second, my 200 million yuan lottery win had nothing to do with him. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Catching a cheater is like catching a thief. You need evidence. If I wanted to take down Oliver and his whole family in one blow, I needed solid proof of his infidelity. But time was running out. The second court session was scheduled for tomorrow, and I couldn't afford to alert him during the hearing. If he got suspicious, I might never catch him red-handed. The next day, we met again in front of that serious-faced judge. He looked at me and said, "Defendant, please present your evidence." I exchanged a glance with my lawyer and replied, "Your Honor, much of the financial data from the past 3 years has been lost, and we couldn't retrieve all the evidence. What we could confirm is that I personally invested 70,000 yuan into the household." The judge pondered for a moment and said, "Due to insufficient evidence, the defendant's claim is not enough to overturn the plaintiff's demands, but the defendant's individual contribution is verified. My ruling is this: the defendant shall return 130,000 yuan of the dowry to the plaintiff within 1 month." As the gavel came down, I lost the case. Oliver and his family walked out of the courtroom looking smug. When they passed me at the entrance, they couldn't resist sneering. Oliver, gloating, looked at me and said, "Emma, I know your family isn't wealthy. As a favor, I'll let you pay the remaining 130,000 in installments." I fired back, "Who are you calling poor?" Selena immediately jumped in with a smug smile. "If you're so well off, why couldn't your parents afford a 500,000 yuan dowry for you? Trying to act classy when you can't even afford the basics. Look at you now, losing in court." In the blazing sun, my ex-mother-in-law shielded her eyes and said, "Ugh, why waste time talking to a hen that doesn't lay eggs? Let's go." That whole family got into their minivan with smug faces and drove off. Smug now. Huh? Let's see if you'll still be laughing in a month. You'll be lucky if you get to keep that minivan. This is the benefit of hiring the strongest legal team, their efficiency is unmatched. In less than 3 days, they placed photos of Oliver's mistress right in front of me. I rubbed my eyes and took a closer look. What the hell? How is it her? Chapter 6. My lawyer told me, every time Oliver went to a hotel, he entered alone, but about half an hour later, the mistress would come in separately, likely to avoid ID registration. Turns out they were being very cautious. No wonder I hadn't noticed anything strange during our 3 years of marriage. The lawyer suggested, Emma, now that we've figured out their pattern, do you want to catch them red-handed in bed? I thought for a moment and said, no, catching them in the act might just scare them off. I'll handle this myself. I want to meet her face to face. Since I didn't have her contact information, I decided to confront her during one of their planned hotel meetups. I blocked her downstairs at the hotel. At first, when Alice saw me, she seemed startled, but then quickly composed herself. Alice, let's find a place to talk, I said, inviting her to a nearby cafe. I took a sip of coffee and said calmly, I honestly didn't expect you to be involved with Oliver. Alice scoffed. You're divorced. Why do you even care? I smiled. I wouldn't, except I know you two were involved before our divorce. I have evidence, but it's always better if you admit it yourself. Alice chuckled coldly. Admit? What's the point now? To tell you the truth, I've been with Oliver for a long time. I'm also the one who introduced my brother Eric to his sister, Selena. So what can you do to us? Once Oliver and I get married, our families will be completely intertwined. I let her finish, then slowly put down my cup. If you testify in court that you and Oliver were having an affair during our marriage, I'll pay you 500,000 yuan. Alice's eyes lit up. Are you serious? You really have that kind of money? You're not scamming me, are you? I looked at her with a smile. I personally don't, but Selena does. Don't you want that money to be yours instead of hers? I know for a fact that their family used everything they had to put together that 500k dowry. They make it sound nice. But once you marry into the family, who knows where the money will actually go? You and your brother may be blood, but even siblings don't always share. And Selena? She's nothing to you. After hearing this, Alice hesitated for a moment, then agreed. I'll testify in court, but I hope you'll keep your word. I reached out my hand. Pleasure doing business. A week later, my lawsuit against Oliver for adultery officially went to trial. From the defendant's seat, he shouted, You accuse me of cheating. Do you have any proof? I looked at him and smiled. Not only do I have proof, I have a witness. The judge nodded, signaling me to call in the witness. The heavy courtroom doors swung open, and Alice walked in. In addition to being my witness, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear, she is also my ex-husband's mistress. She'll testify herself that she and Oliver were engaged in an affair during our marriage. Even the jury looked stunned. It's not every day you see a mistress testifying on the wife's behalf. Alice took her place on the witness stand. She opened her mouth and slowly said, Your Honor, Oliver and I were just friends before he divorced Emma. There was no affair. We never had a romantic relationship while he was still married. I stared at her, eyes wide with disbelief. Alice had just betrayed me. Right here in court. She stabbed me in the back. Chapter 7. Of course, I never fight a battle I'm not prepared for. Facing Alice's betrayal, I simply smiled and pulled out my phone. Alice, when you stabbed me in the back, did it never occur to you I might be recording our conversation? I held up my phone. In fact, I had already guessed Alice wouldn't help me. Men might betray women for money, but women? They're emotional creatures. After I had that talk with Alice, I saw her walk out of the hotel holding Oliver's hand like nothing ever happened. Right then, I figured she must have told Oliver about our plan. But it didn't matter. Money makes the world go round. There's no way I couldn't find evidence of their affair. The hotel front desk, cleaning ladies, just about anyone could recognize them. Alice and Oliver were livid, caught completely off guard. I turned calmly to the judge and said, Your Honor, I believe it's now a proven fact that Oliver and Alice had an affair during our marriage. May I apply for a reallocation of marital property? The judge nodded in approval. Then my legal team immediately began calculating the division of property. Frankly, There wasn't much to divide because I took it all. The house, the savings, even the so-called wedding dowry of 500,000 yuan all went to me. Truth be told, I didn't even want the beat-up minivan, but it came with the package. Selena, my ex-sister-in-law, charged at me furiously. You bitch! That money was my dowry. How dare you take it? I smirked. I told you a long time ago, you know exactly where that 500,000 came from. I'm just taking what's rightfully mine. Why so triggered? Since we were still in court, Oliver and Alice could only glare at me viciously. But I wasn't done with them. I turned to Alice and laughed. You know, Alice, your biggest mistake is being too dumb. Did you really think this man would give you a 500,000 yuan dowry? Think about it. Why do you think Oliver gifted that money to Selena as a dowry? To hide it. Obviously. Selena gets 500K for marrying? Don't you think, as his wife, you'd need at least as much? You thought you could outsmart that family? Please. You're way too green. Alice's anger immediately turned toward Oliver. Now it was his turn to panic. He kept trying to explain, but it was no use. He had no house, no savings, and a pending adultery charge on his record. All of it, his own fault. A week later, the real estate agents came to inspect the house, but ran into trouble. My former mother-in-law, Monica, was sitting on the windowsill, screaming, "If you come in again, I'll jump. I swear, I'll jump right off this building. This is my house. You can't take it. If you dare sell my home, I'll die right here and turn it into a haunted house." Oliver stood nearby, shouting hysterically, afraid his mother might fall. Of course, it was all for show. They thought this drama would scare off the real estate agents. But I had hired professionals, agents who'd seen it all. They didn't even flinch. They calmly finished taking pictures and said, "Mr. Oliver, this property has already been listed under Emma's name. You'll need to move out by next week, or we'll have a team come remove you." As soon as they said that, Monica rolled her eyes back and fainted. Oliver realized if he didn't move soon, things would only get worse. So he packed up Monica and Selena and headed back to their rural hometown. Naturally, they hated me to their core. Alice and Oliver had broken up. Selena's marriage to Eric was called off. She wanted to kill me, and apparently, so did they all. And the scary part? They actually tried. They asked around and found out I'd moved into a gated luxury villa. Then, wearing ski masks and carrying machetes, 2 of them came looking for me. Chapter 8. At first, they didn't believe I could possibly be living in a luxury villa. They assumed I must have landed myself a sugar daddy. But after a week of watching me, they confirmed I was living alone. So one night, they broke in quietly. They drove a knife straight into the figure under the blanket on my bed. In an instant, blood stained the white sheets. Selena panicked for a second, but her eyes still burned with hatred. Suddenly, the entire villa lit up. Startled, the 2 of them dropped their knives and tried to flee. But I was already waiting at the front door with my bodyguards. I still had a face mask on. I gave a calm order. "Take them." In a flash, the 2 were pinned to the ground. When I peeled off the mask, their eyes filled with disbelief. You're not," they stammered. "You're not dead?" I sneered. "Maybe next time you 2 geniuses should check what you're stabbing before you start celebrating." Too stupid to even confirm the kill, Oliver completely hung his head. But Selena, still blinded by jealousy, screamed, "Emma, you shameless bitch. Just divorced my brother and you're already being kept by some rich guy, living in a house like this." Oliver glared at me with contempt. I sat elegantly on my luxury sofa and crossed my legs. "Who told you this was some sugar daddy's villa? This is mine, built with my own money. Oh right, almost forgot to mention, I won the lottery, 200 million yuan. This villa? Fully paid in cash. Understand?" The 2 of them stared at me like idiots. Oliver stammered, "That woman who won the 200 million recently, that was you?" I waved my hand dismissively. "I don't owe either of you an explanation, but what I do owe you is justice. You're being charged with attempted murder. This villa has full 360-degree surveillance, every angle covered. If you have anything to say, take it up with the police." With just one glance from me, the bodyguards dragged them out. Straight to the police station. My legal representative later told me. Oliver lost his mind the moment they arrived. He screamed at the top of his lungs, "My wife won 200 million. That woman is my wife." He went berserk in the interrogation room, smashing things, kicking walls, screaming incoherently. Selena, too, seemed mentally unstable. After all, she had just attempted murder with her own brother. They didn't even need a formal interrogation because my villa's full-week surveillance footage was delivered right alongside them. With overwhelming evidence and my elite legal team, the two were convicted of premeditated attempted murder and sentenced to life imprisonment. When the verdict was announced, Selena snapped. She rushed at Oliver in court, screaming that he had dragged her down. In her fury, she slammed his head into the edge of the defense table. Oliver died on the spot. Selena didn't escape justice either. As for me, my husband died, but I became rich. A perfect example of double happiness. And from now on, I'll live out the rest of my life alone, surrounded by cold, hard cash.